This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is a review of the season finale of Star Trek Strange New World Season 2, Hegemony. Yeah, it's a cliffhanger. Anyway, hold on a second. So this is a review of Hegemony, Star Trek Strange New World Season 2 finale, cliffhanger. This episode they go to Parnassus 2, which is a Sicilian planet, which is has an Earth-like colony. If it's Venusaur, they're on Far Out, which is cool. They're on Far Out, and so that's what it is. They're on Far Out. There's a moon like Earth, and the Ticonderoga, which sounds like a California class ship, but it's goes to the planet and is attacked by the Gorn, and the Enterprise has to go in and save them. The captain lady that Pike is sweet on down there, and Chapel's down there. They have set up a 20th century colony like in Silly Trek. They're about 100 years too early for Silly Trek to be doing stuff there, but due to the warps and the space-time continuum at the Silian realms, classic Trek lines up with Next Generation via a 78-year time corridor anomaly. Basically because they both were at the same time. So. Although that's not a plot in the story. Granted, it's not a plot in the story. That's not in there. That would be more like a Strange New World. That would be more like, I'll hold the paper up again. Come on, camera. Not using this one for the last take. But yeah, there's, we have this. That's not about this plot at all. That's just Silly Trek. And they're separated by those years because the on location at Final Silly Trek on location Starship locations started in 1987. When Next Generation started, roughly. So, but the classic Trek was still doing movies set in 2287, roughly. So that means that 2364 and 2287 were roughly in the same universe, due to the anomaly. That's what it's about. That's the only thing. So now it's 36 years later, and it's just doing the same thing over and over again. So they went to a Silian planet. It was under attack by the Gorn. It wasn't really a Silian planet, but it kind of was. It wasn't Flodi. It was Venusaur. It was Far Out. But yes, and they were So they go to the planet, and we're reintroduced to Scotty at one point. It's gonna be Scott doing the planet. I guess he came with another shuttle ship thing, even though they kind of introduced him last season, like in the background, just a voice in the background, indicating he'd been there before, but then they decided to have Pella be the lady on the ship, and they tied that together. He's down on the planet. He has a Gorn shuttle his way out. They get into there's a debris field left from the ship that blew up. They decimated the ship, decimated the saucer section, which is right out of episode 1 of Silly Trek, in which I decimated the saucer section of the Enterprise, of course stealing the joke from Star Trek 3, but 84, it was 3 years earlier. Decimate the saucer section, because that's what happened in that movie. So I didn't use that. I just borrowed it. Launch the saucer section off the ship and have it fly through space. Of course, then they show trailers and stuff. They can show this Constitution-class ship's saucer section not ripped off. It could be the Enterprise. And they can randomly wreck the set. They used a barbershop and set, and barbershop / dentist office / doctor's office set. It looks like the one from Picard, Season 2. Why not use the same building? You have a set. Why not use it? That's fine. Police station / other things. At Hollywood, they can do that. But it really did look like it. Down on the planet, they're hiding there. It's odd that they get there at night. Like, okay, the planet's orbit is probably different and all that. So the warp drive is weird in the newer Star Trek stuff. It's like entertaining. You get there at night so that they could show things going on, and so they don't need to show the special effects that don't look as good. And they had some camera angles that looked really strange. This one, just like they did with the dark light, I'm guessing what's going on is because they're using digital video like this, but more high end, that they don't know what they're looking at when they're looking in the lens. And at one point, it was kind of like some of my fan films. I struggled with this one too with my fan films on the Robotech thing. A tendency for the camera to lean to one side or the other. So they have this weird couple of shots, happened 2 or 3 times. It's really noticeable. The camera just flonks over to this side. It's over here, or it's over here, all the way, almost over here, and the actor is talking, and it's like, don't do that. Don't do that. That's almost as bad as having them at center frame and having them be looking right into the camera. Now, on a blog, that's fine, but in a studio production, don't do that. I understand that a little artsy is kind of cool, but yeah, but yeah, and that's because whoever was filming it wasn't looking into the camera and saying like, oh shoot, move it slightly to the right, slightly to the left. Can't see the actor; he's kind of half cut off there. Oops. In a Hollywood production, it's not the fault of the writer's strike and the actor's strike at this point. This was filmed like a year ago, and all the effects were at it. But yes, but yeah, and their circadian rhythms wouldn't line up with the planet's orbit. Day and night wouldn't be Earth's day and night; it would be this planet's day and night. Chances of them being similar, well, making them sleep is out of exhaustion, I guess, would be no. That doesn't make sense. But they keep setting it up like, oh, Chapel was killed on the saucer section, but obviously not. That character is not going to be killed off. It's a legacy character. So she's alive. So in sick bay, and somehow gets to the bridge. She gets an EV suit, gets to the bridge. There's a Gorn, an adult Gorn with a space suit mask. That looked rather cool. They did light that in dark lighting, so you could tell that it's probably a guy in a suit, or a combination of the two. Of course, the reason the captain lady isn't a small Gorn tries to attack them. Some Gorns try to attack them off and on, imply that she was bit and there's eggs inside her or something. Like the alien queen, yeah, there's a lot of alien stuff. They're not alien though. They're not the xenomorph. Stop saying they're xenomorphs. They're not. That doesn't make any sense. Don't make them xenomorphs. No. They're lizards. They're velociraptor things. They're velociraptor T-Rex things. They're probably Allosauruses, technically. Allosaurids had bigger arms. Yeah. And I think it was Mark's Cards last week who said, you know what they should do? They should have the adult Gorn look like an actual Gorn. Actually, Steve Shives also said that. The adult Gorn look like the actual G1 Kirk Gorn thing. And of course, there's the Mark's Cards parody Gorn porn, in which Kirk doesn't fight the Gorn. He kisses the Gorn. Toothy. Yes, exactly. Because as a joke, he thought that up like years ago in college. But I've thought of some worse stuff. I thought of Archie Bunker and Mall Massacre. Archie Bunker spoof Mall Massacre, any number of things. The Beverly Hills Teens cartoon ends up doing anyway, killing each other. So that's why I keep holding up the paper. So we have, so they get them out, but then Sam Kirk and some of the other colonists are captured by the other Gorn ships that show up. They crash the saucer section on the planet to throw off the Gorn sensor block that's on the planet. They mentioned at one point Lagrange points, and that's not where they are, because a Lagrange point is not orbit of a moon. That's roughly Luna and Earth in the analogy there, and it's not a Lagrange point, because that makes no sense. The Lagrange points are the points in an orbit of a planet where a stable other object could be, like for example the JWST in Lagrange point 2 telescope. is on the other end of the Earth's orbit, Earth-Sun orbit, way over there, about half an AU that way or whatever. So it's like, well, yeah, they say Lagrange point, that makes no sense. Because that would be nowhere near the planet. It would be on the other side of the planet's orbit. Of course, in Star Trek The Motion Picture, they said the cloud was 82 AU in diameter, and then changed it in the director's cut to 2 AU. It still doesn't make any sense, because 2 AU in diameter would be ridiculous. The solar system would be destroyed by V'ger immediately. Yeah, and blockading something in space is, yeah, the planet's awfully small. Or the ship's awfully large. So, yeah, it doesn't match. The debris field wouldn't be that large, and the ship wouldn't be that... I mean, a classic Starfleet ship is going to be, what, 500 meters at most? That's not very big. I mean, it's like a large seagoing vessel, but it's not going to go out all over into space, so there's this big debris field to hide behind. There'd be hardly anything there. I mean, yeah, it's where's all the other debris coming from? So that was a weird part. They should have been like, oh, there was a bunch of other ships there that also got blown up. And yeah, they just say, oh, there was a whole fleet of colony ships and they got blown up. Then they could at least say, okay, there's a debris field. Yeah. Now I'll go to the left, to the right, like in that movie, in the episode. Yeah. Yeah, that didn't make sense. And it's a part 1. It's a to be continued. Yeah. Hope it got renewed for season 3. But yeah, they put the captain lady in stasis, and I've forgotten her name. I think her first name is Erica, but I'm not sure if that's right. There's a bunch of other... I got to see Ortegas fly the shuttle. Crazy shuttle scene. Very similar to some of the beats in the... with the saucer crashing and all that. Very similar to beats in the J.J. Abrams movies. They even have some of the dialogue in it. Thrash the bridge in sick bay like they did last time. But they said it's the other ship. Yeah, so... thinking they filmed all the other stuff first and then went back and made it look like the bridge was trashed. Assuming that's what they did. Yeah, and a cool effect showing the different decks of the ship, although that's a little off too, because it makes them look smaller than it is. And how did she get out of sick bay? From the hull, whatever. Yeah, and then flashed the flashlight. She's going to shine the flashlight. That didn't work. Where is Thorby at? What's going on? Clearly, they're not going to leave George Kirk on the ship. Although, does that match up with his character getting killed on the parasite planet? The sucky egg thing, pancake things hitting him on the back from the classic Trek. That's later. And if this is a 5-year mission that started in 2260, it has to end just before Kirk's 5-year mission with no refit. It doesn't match up. So, 2265 to 2270 roughly would be the classic Trek Kirk era mission. And then about 2270-71 to early 72 is the motion picture. And to line up with Khan being 16 years ago would be a 2285 for Wrath of Khan, 2285 and a half for the and part 3 as well. Part 4 is 2286. It's a few weeks later. So Next Generation starts 78 years later, and in 2364 is when the Enterprise D is under Picard, although launched a few days back in 2363, the Enterprise D was launched, but then they were on their first mission in 2364. Next Generation lasts till 2370, roughly. Another 7-year mission this time, with the ship destroyed on Viridian 3, and then you have during that you have Deep Space Nine, which is 2269 to 2075, Voyager from 2271 to 2278. And the movies, TNG movies, on from there, 2270 78 being 2278 being 2271, the Next Generation movie, and then you got all the way to 2279 for the Nemesis, and 2379. And then you jump 20 some years to Star Trek Picard Season 1. You know, it shouldn't be 20, it should be 18, but it's 20. And it shouldn't be 2399, it should be 2397, but it isn't, so okay, fine. In part 1 it's 2290, 2401, 40, and 401, and then about a year later for the Star Picard Season 3, which they tried to fix the date, but inadvertently made it still wrong. It should be 2401, 24 to 2404, and yeah, it's not. Oh well. Anyway, so yeah, the Star Trek review thing. Sure. Gorn. I don't know what I rambled about Next Generation, but it's Star Trek, so at least it's not rambling about going to Flodai or Far Out. Splinter. So they did go to Far Out, so they've acknowledged, okay, we're going to the Vasilian planet. It's not a Star Trek planet. But yeah, later be occupied by the martial sportist cult for a little while, for about a year. Yeah, and in 2383 or so, 2383. During the time of during the time of Lower Decks, maybe they'll go there too. That'd be kind of cool. No, but yeah, encounter the martial sportist. If anybody was going to join the movie Mariner, no. Anyway, so I almost forgot to do a season recap of this season because this is the season finale. There's not much to say except we had a few interesting ones. We had a visit to a TOS planet. We had a Lower Decks crossover from 120 years in the future, but through a time portal. So we had an episode where they visited Earth and reinvented Khan again and made him Grandson Khan. I still call him Grandson Khan because he can't be the original. He can't be. I'm guessing the eugenics people and the eugenics wars people in the timeline of the show, that's what they were talking about all season, that he is a descendant of Khan Noonien Singh. He's grandson. And he's not the original, because that makes no sense. Now, the original is from 1996, and that's when it happened. This one is some other guy that's his grandson. That's fine. That makes sense. Okay. That's the headcanon. That's what happened. The Gorn should not be... The Gorn keep introduced. They should not be xenomorphs. That makes no sense. The Spock Chapel soap opera thing, that's fine. That has to end at some point. And you have to go with Corby. They did that. Kirk has to be with... if you missed it in the singing episode, Kirk has to be with Carol Marcus, at least a little while, in order to shag her. Not consistent with the Abrams version, where they barely met. They would have known each other. And they already would have shagged. So, yeah. They made Kirk the horn dog in the Abrams movies. But really, if you look back at the original Star Trek, he kisses a lot of women on occasion. And he plays the womanizer kind of role. However, it was the 60s, and he's like a hot young dude then, and figures why not. In the Abrams movie just picked up on that and did it to the nines. They also included fan apocrypha in the Abrams movies. That, of course, that weird retcon thing where they wouldn't have even known him at that point. It's not Space Seed. It's way before Space Seed. It would have been like, okay, Khan, who are you? And the apple tossing scene, which they stole right out of our fan films. The only way that possibly could have happened is a young J.J. Abrams visited Pine Hill when we did that in our fan films. And then he was like, oh, that should be, yeah, we'll put that in a movie someday. We'll do that. That's got to be what happened, because there's no other. He didn't get it from Next Generation. That was a tennis ball. That one. Oh. Or Rasmussen had an apple. I suppose he could have got it from Next Generation and Reficon, but it is a little weird. It's a little weird. They did the Dr. McCoy thing in this season, but instead of it being Dr. McCoy, they introduced Scotty. They reintroduced Scotty. They kind of off screen introduced him last time. The timeline doesn't quite match up. Each of these is a 10-episode series, and they used to be 22 episodes per season, which means roughly 7 months of a year is covered in Star Trek each year, roughly. Now they're 10, so other things could have happened in the meantime. A lot of other things could have happened in the meantime. It's only 10 hours, really, of a given mission. But yeah, if it's still 2261, they are but 5 years away from Kirk's 5-year mission. They're not that far off, and the other planets, because it would technically be 22. I wonder if they're keeping track, because Carol Marcus is right where they're supposed to be, though. If they actually include her at some point. The Khan granddaughter, the Sing lady on the ship, is of course named for the Renegades character. It's a nod to Renegades, absolutely. The other Luna, well, they like Renegades. So, and two of the others are nods to other characters. But on lower decks, the transhuman, not transsexual, but transhuman, the robot, half robot guy, Rutherford, is named after Michael Gamelt character, and so is Tendi. She's named after a character from that Gamelt stories. Fan story. It wasn't even a film. It wasn't even a film. It was a script that he never filmed. We filmed ours, but we filmed more stuff about Tendi and Rutherford than the guy that actually thought of them. Yeah, but only our story is 20 years after the events of Lower Decks. So, and ours is next season. So, well, yeah. So we're almost done with one of the Robotech miniseries movies, Prince of Photography, and to the other two, back to back, and and then we get on with season 3 of Starship Locations. Called Destinations, season 3. And then we'll see what our characters are going to do. And if they're anything like this, they aren't going to be really, because, no, they're not. We wrote our scripts when theirs were in production, so we don't know what they were doing. We knew about Picard, season 2. We knew they were going to do that. Yeah, they can try to blame the Cillian universe for doing that. Although, ironically, we didn't go to the 20th century in our stuff. It just looked like it. So Picard season 2 going to the 21st century of like, what are they doing silly track? They're not going to get that. Because we couldn't do that. We're going to do that in the 3rd season. Go to a couple of planets that are like the 21st century. So we do that. So that's the only similarity to the Hegemony. They were going to go to this colony. Or like, oh, it's not similar. It's not. It just looked kind of similar. It's not. But yeah, it's far out. It's supposed to be far out. Which is in the penis horror system. It's actually a PL story thing, actually. Yeah. Well, it's sort of like KS, but with Picard and LaForge. Because first season LaForge acted like that. He acted like he was really fruity. And he wasn't supposed to be. They just wrote him that way. LeVar Burton was a good sport. He played along with it. But then they decided, no, he's not really. He likes girls. Why can't they be bi on the ship? Why can't they be metro? I mean, they're in the future. They would like everything. Oh my. Because they certainly imply on this show that the soap opera of Strange New Worlds, being what it is, a soap opera, because it is, overuse of the lounge bar thing of Steve Shives doesn't mind that. However, that's too Next Generation. There wasn't a bar place on Kirk's Enterprise. It doesn't make sense that they would have one. The mess hall is a mess hall, and you figure they have a bar and lounge on the Enterprise D because it's more like a big hotel cruise ship floating through space, and it's not really, they have this cruise ship and they have a bar. but yeah, it's more like a cruise ship. They had a giant cruiser ship. They weren't really, they're relaxing a lot on their 7-year mission. But yeah, this bar just doesn't really make sense. It doesn't for the classic Trek era. Some fan has made a fan version of it in which it walk around set. They called it 9 Forward to be funny, but that's not what it's called. It's just a bar. It's just a forward lounge thing. Wouldn't be on deck 9 anyway, would it? It'd be like deck 8 or deck 7. Because because it's the saucer section. And it's smaller than the Enterprise D, a considerable amount. So yeah, that was a little goofy. Relationships were a little goofy. The T'Pol thing. But if they're treating it like it's a Academy, they're already treating it like it's a Starfleet Academy thing, even though it's not. Lieutenants everywhere instead of ensigns. So sure. Where was the incidents? The singing there was apparently more lip syncing than we thought in that episode, the singing episode. They shouldn't do that again, because High School Musical, just don't. So that's the recap, pretty much. It's kind of they tried to cram the whole year into 10 episodes, and they couldn't even finish it. They had to do a cliffhanger at the end. I suppose with the actual writers thing and actors thing, they won't be able to complete. Maybe they won't be able to complete it. Maybe they'll have is this where Stranger Worlds ends? I don't know.